Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to break down a blueprint for mastering one of the most critical skills in our lives, communication. This is the one thing that can literally define our biggest wins and, yeah, our most painful failures.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Every promotion, every new relationship, every argument, it all hinges on a conversation. It's such a powerful idea. Even after years of public speaking, I've totally fumbled when the stakes were highest. The insights we're about to go through, honestly, they were a complete game changer for me.
All right, so let's start with a foundational truth. Communicating effectively is one of the absolute hardest things that we humans do. And the reason why, well, it's probably not what you think. It's all happening right up here, inside our own heads. So according to neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett, your brain isn't just a passive tape recorder, patiently logging what people say. No, it's an active prediction machine. It's constantly guessing, trying to fill in the blanks, and figure out what's coming next. Now, this was an amazing trait for, surviving in the wild, but in modern conversation, it causes a ton of problems.
Okay, so this is where it gets really messy. Any message you try to send gets filtered through at least 4 layers of distortion. There's what you meant to say, what you actually said, what the other person heard, and then finally what they interpreted it to mean. By the end of that chain, the original meaning can be totally and completely lost.
You want a perfect, kind of hilarious example of this in action? Look no further than this classic rock lyric. Jimi Hendrix saying, "Excuse me while I kiss the sky." But what did millions of our prediction machine brains hear? "Excuse me while I kiss this guy." It's funny, right? But it's also a powerful reminder of just how easily our brains fill in the gaps and get it wrong.
Okay, so we know our brains are kind of working against us here. But what do we do about it?
Well, the good news is we can counteract it. Let's dive into 3 really practical frameworks you can start using, like today.
Oh man, we have all been there, right? You spend time crafting what you think is the perfect text or email, you hit send, and it just completely blows up in your face. Why? Because all the tone, all the nuance, it gets totally scrambled. The meaning gets lost in the medium. So how do you decide which one to use? All right, here's a super simple tool for this. It's called the CPR Framework. Just ask yourself 3 questions. C, is the topic complex? P, is there high emotional pressure? And R, does it need a real-time 2-way response? If you answer yes to at least 2 of those, just pick up the phone. Seriously, so much drama can be avoided just by having a real conversation.
I love this line from Chris Rock because it just hits so hard. It's painfully true, isn't it? We're nodding along, trying to look engaged, but really what's happening? Our own little internal radio station is just blaring, getting our own point ready, just waiting for a tiny gap so we can jump in. True listening, that's a whole different skill.
The key is to think of yourself like a DJ at a mixing board. So first step, you hit the mute button on your own thoughts. Just quiet them down. Second, hit pause. Let a moment of silence happen after they finish speaking. Give your brain a second to catch up. Third, hit record. But you're not recording their words. You're recording their tone, their energy, their emotion. And only then, once you've done all that, do you hit playback and respond. This makes sure you're really connecting, not just talking.
Okay, what about those moments that make your heart pound? A job interview, a big client call, someone throws a tough question at you, and your mind just goes blank. Or worse, you just start rambling. Ugh, there's a much better way to handle this. It's called the art of the answer, and it is so slick. First, A, answer the question directly, head on, don't build up to it. Then, R, reveal a reason, a story, or some insight. Give a little context. And finally, T, tie it back to their original question. This is like landing the plane. It gives your answer incredible clarity and structure.
Now these tools are fantastic. They really are. But they're only half the battle. They won't work unless we address the biggest obstacle in communication, and that obstacle is usually ourselves. So let's talk about the inner game.
I'll never forget, years ago, my boss pulled me aside and gave me some feedback that was just brutal. He said I was hiding behind humor and sarcasm because I was insecure, and it was making people not trust me. And you know what? He was 100% right. We all hide. We use jokes, or we use complicated business jargon. It's all a defense mechanism.
So the fix here is actually really simple. Just simplify your language. Instead of trying to sound smart with words like leverage, just say use. Instead of strategy, say plan. When you use simple, clear language, you reduce the cognitive load on your listener. You're making it easier for their brain to process what you're saying, which means they'll actually remember it.
Let me tell you a quick story about what pure panic feels like. Early in my career, I was on this massive, high-stakes call with a huge hedge fund, and the main fund manager asks me this super specific technical question about a financial model,
And I was supposed to be the guy with the answers. But in that moment, nothing. My mind was just white noise. I completely and utterly froze. Just absolute panic.
And in that moment of just pure animal panic, I did the one thing you should never, ever do. Click. I hung up on him right in the middle of the call. Now, I did eventually get it together, found the answer, and called him back. But that feeling, that lesson was burned into my brain forever.
And that's where I learned this crucial lesson. Presence beats perfection. Look, the best performers aren't perfect. They don't have all the answers. Their superpower is that when they mess up or when they panic, they don't crumble. They find a way to center themselves, own it, and then find a solution. Your presence in the moment is so much more powerful than trying to be perfect.
And a huge part of presence is your actual voice. I learned this from an opera singer of all people, and she gave me 3 incredible tips. 1. Speak from your core, your diaphragm, not just your throat. It gives your voice resonance. 2. Find your optimal vocal register, that sweet spot where your voice sounds confident and attractive. And 3. Control your endings. Don't let every sentence trail up like it's a question, you know? Seriously, record yourself on your phone. It's the fastest way to learn how to play your own instrument.
All right, this all leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. We've talked tools, we've talked mindset, but this is the ultimate principle that really ties everything together.
When you think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s incredible speech, we all remember 4 words. I have a dream. But why those words? It wasn't just what was said. It was the deep, unshakable presence, the powerful emotion behind them that everyone could feel. That's what connects. That's what changes the world.
And this really gets to the deepest truth of all. When I was a CEO, I started this really simple practice. Whenever someone walked into my office, I would physically close my laptop. It was a tiny gesture, but it sent a massive signal. You are the most important thing to me right now. Because in this crazy, distracted world we live in, giving someone your full, undivided attention, man, that might be the rarest and most powerful gift you can give.
So, let me leave you with a thought. Forget trying to master every single conversation for the rest of your life. That's way too overwhelming. Just focus on the next one, the very next person you talk to today. What if you decided to give that person your full presence, without judgment? Who knows? That one conversation, it might just change everything.